First of all, I don't think anybody finds ads enjoyable except for the people who work in them. I think most people find them like irritating. It's just a music.
No. Let's
Maybe your place.
Okay.
Today, we are hoping to hone in the area of music and advertising. And the topic of discussion really is, what role does music play in advertising? Hey all, welcome to the Chinwag Collective, and specifically welcome to Chinwag Evenings, part of the Chinwag Collective, the podcast collective where we put out audio podcasts every thrice in a while. And we're hoping this is the start of what will become a once a month meeting where we discuss stuff of relevance, we discuss stuff of importance around various areas. It could be music, experiential, theater, advertising, a combination of these. But the idea is for us to have real conversations. And I do believe we have the right people both on this side of the fence as also your side of the fence, live on ground with us. Want to say a big hello to all of you who will be tuning in as we go along to the podcast, both audio and audio visually. Okay, today we are hoping to hone in the area of music and advertising. And the topic of discussion really is, what role does music play in advertising? Does it play a role in advertising? We've had a few animated discussions before we got the microphones and cameras rolling. And we're hoping that, we will revive those little early conversations today. And of course, to do justice to a conversation like this or a discussion like this, I do believe you need the right people who are convicted in their point of view, but are open to listening, debating, arguing, agreeing to disagree, disagreeing to agree, killing each other. No, I didn't say that. And I do believe we have the right people in the house. I'm going to start off with Ambi, who's spent a lifetime and a half in advertising.
I look it too.
A humble man as well, as you can hear and see. But Ambi brings with him experience that is rich, to say the least. And I don't want to get into biodatas here. I don't believe the gentlemen sitting here with me need specific and long introductions. To my right is another gentleman whom we've known for a lifetime. I won't say a lifetime and a half. Rajeev Raja, who's spent time in advertising, now spending time in music, insisted that I'm not in advertising. I'm in music now, so we hear you, Rajeev. Also a wonderful musician, a flautist, and now, of course, spreading the musical word into logos and or mogos to be Rajivish in my expression. To my immediate left, another dear friend from way back when. He's only 21 years of age. Don't let me give you the wrong impression.
22.
It's 22. Leslee Lewis, who's again spent a brilliant lifetime in music, has done stuff in the world of music that people talk about passionately to date. Before we rolled cameras, I could hear the two gentlemen on my left recounting songs done, a couple of decades ago. Leslee comes with a rich history, and it continues as we speak. And of course, to my extreme left is Rahul, who really brings down, the geriatric age in this room. But Rahul himself is honestly on a fantastic path in the world of music. Jam room, producing music, a musician himself, providing facilities and indeed creating it. Rahul's a very precious part of the forum today, as are the other three. I'm going to interject once in a while and make sure that there is an honest and a fruitful debate, not just for us in the room, but for people who will tune in, both audio and visually, to our podcast as we go along. So welcome all. I'm going to start off by maybe rolling back the years very quickly. Ambi, I'm looking at you specifically because you've had a glorious career and continue to, both by way of your advertising career, by way of your education career, now educating career, as also your book writing. We had, back in the 80s, 90s, maybe late 90s, early 2000s as well, what people call a glorious era in advertising. I want you to very quickly talk about it, and in your opinion, honest opinion, tell us about what it was then, what it is now, going up, going down, what do you believe? And I also want to say that if you feel you want to interject, feel free to kind of, join in. And so, Ambi, yours.
Okay, so, you cast me in my Neanderthal best. So let me admit, I started my career in advertising before probably anyone in the audience was born, in 1979. Yeah. Date of birth, 1979. Well done. I started my advertising career in 1979 as a young account executive, fresh out of a B school, working in a hot creative agency called Rediffusion. And I had the opportunity of working with Arun Kale and Kamlesh Pandey and going and recording jingles in the famous Western Outdoor with Louis Banks. I remember doing a series of 6 jingle-based ads for Apela, Cadbury Apela. I don't know, the brand has come and gone, but the campaign actually won the Campaign of the Year award that time. That was a wonderful, Rediffusion used to do a lot of non-musical ads as well, a lot of dialogue-based ad because, Kamlesh was very good at writing dialogue, stuff like that. But those are great days of music because all those great ads, both 70s and then 80s, just think back, I growing up watching ads on, cinema halls. I don't know how many of you remember, Usha Uthup used to sing Come Alive to the Taste of Nescafe. And, in a sweaty theater, you watch the Nescafe ad and you listen to her music. And of course, Karen Lunel cavorting under a waterfall with the la 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 la. What okay, that.
Yeah, the music.
Music,
Yeah.
man. La,
Oh, there was music.
La 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 la.
So that's an original FA commercial.
Yes.
Which
Exactly.
then got
Correct.
here. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
But the tune is amazing because it just used to get us. So you'd be humming that, but you're watching Karen.
Yeah,
exactly.
And of course, Alec has written a story about how they were shooting this ad in the waterfall, and Karen had to be continuously fed a lot of rum or vodka, brandy or something.
Keep her warm.
So to keep her warm. But, so that, and then a little later, of course, highly memorable ad. I think all of you would have probably seen, remember Humara Bajaj. Nothing as lilting as that one. That still stays in public memory, Humara Bajaj. Those were the 80s, and then now we come to early 90s. But then I had moved and I've gone into advertising with Ulka, and then we did the Doodh commercial. And I think many of you probably grew up drinking milk to the tune of, Doodh. So thinking back, I'm looking at past with, kind of pink-colored lenses to say what a glorious tradition we've had of using music in advertising, right? I remember, I think 96 or 97, Alex here was a young account executive in our agency, and I got one of the young guys to look at ads and say how many types of music have been used in Indian advertising. And we had a count of something like 18. Western classical, we also use Western classical in many of our ads. Jazz, right? We used kodo drums, the Japanese drum, which all of us saw them playing during the Japanese World Cup, right? The supposedly kodo drums, right? Ranjit Barrow did the music for Kunal Kapoor. Of course, baul music was used by Fevicol. Carnatic music was used. Of course, we used what is known as Gregorian chant for an ad for Volta's Mega Laundry. ये नहीं हो सकता, कभी नहीं हो सकता. So
I'm glad you kept your day job.
Absolutely.
I'm watching Rajeev. He's wondering what's the notes.
Maybe there will be bloodshed and I will be the first victim.
You'll get murdered first. But anyway, so we've used, so there's some Indian ads have used variety of music. And we in advertising used to enjoy going and sitting with music directors, getting music done. I mean, I've written about one of my books. Young music director was making this jingle for me for a small brand in Chennai. The year was 92 or 93. And we were waiting for the singer to come. And we were sitting in his house. There was a little swing. Both of us sitting on the swing and, swinging away. And then he said, "Sir, do you think there is a career in music in India, sir?" I said, "Yaar, why are you asking? Why are you asking me? I'm talking 92. It's a real story. Huh? I've written it. So, and he's not contradicted, so it happened." So why are you asking? "Sir, things are tough, sir." So I said, "Yaar, you're highly talented. You will do well. I mean, you're doing ad jingles today. Tomorrow you'll do something better. Don't give up, yaar. India's growing." And I gave one of those, "Hamara desh aage badhega," all that kind of stuff to him in Tamil, of course. And we recorded the jingle and I said, "Thank you very much." And I left. And it turns out that young man, whom I used to call Dilip, is today known as A.R. Rahman, right? I'm not joking, huh? This really happened, right? So we in advertising used to love interacting with music directors, going and spending time with them, vibing with them, and occasionally stopping them from leaving us and going to Australia.
Oh, that was a time.
This is advertising. We loved it. I mean, there was nothing like, talk to someone who will talk to someone who will talk to someone, and we get one jingle on a mobile phone and listen to it. No, we were there.
I'm going to interject there. Thank you, Ambi. Les, I mean, you represented the musician side of it, like Ambi was talking about AR, and give us your version of your life as a musician back then, maybe the same era, and then of course we'll move on.
But I think what Ambi so far said is absolutely correct. I mean, even Rahman being Dilip, see, all the main ads were happening out of Bombay. So he was also a fanboy.
Sure.
Man. So when I went to Chennai, he called me to his house, to his studio. He wanted to show me stuff. But he's amazingly talented. He was then. He still is. I mean, so I'm just saying it's not like something is developed along the way. At the same time, I think so for me, I find that's not happening nowadays, is what we were doing then, is we apprenticed under somebody. You worked under someone, and not for 1 month and 2 months. I spent 4 years with Louis Banks as his apprentice. So Humara Bajaj and everything, I was there.
Doodh as well, right?
Doodh is my own commercial. So I was the composer for that. That's after Louis. But Humara Bajaj was when I was with Louis. And I was with Louis for 4 years, from 1984, 5, 6, 2 commercials a day. Maybe 3 sometimes. And carrying your own gear and plugging your own and Louis stuff.
Is that how you started your Swiss account and stuff?
I lost the number actually. So I've lost that account number. I don't know where it is. If somebody finds it. So from my perspective, I can see what Rahman was saying. Is it's tough. We want to do music, but you can't. So when I started off, I was more like, when I came from Mount Abu, I was in a boarding school. I came here, I knew nobody. So somebody from my building introduced me to like a fisherman. There's a fisherman club in colony in Mahim. So there was an orchestra. So I got to play. I just wanted to play. So somebody got me in there, and I was playing on the road for Ganpati. On the pandal. I was standing there and and I'm playing guitar with my teeth. I want to be Hendrix, but this guy's mad. But
that's a great visual, right? Hendrix playing at Mahim on the beach.
Yeah,
Ganpati Mandal.
Umbargaon, Satpati, Palghar Station. I mean, I've just played it everywhere. And so I think that helped me to get the kind of understand the Indian, vibe of Aam Janta. But as a musician, you wanted to get ahead. And then I met, it was at that time that I met Andrew, who was from my class, and Andrew D'Souza, and he was chosen as Joseph in a play in Bandra. and this Andrian fair was happening, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey, Leslie, do you want to play play guitar in our play? We're looking for a guitar player." And it started by another journey started, and this guy was one of the young cast in Joseph, and we've known, I'm talking 1978.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this thing forever. So as a musician, you just want to do music. So I used to play for Ghazals, I used to play for Sur Sat Sammelan, I used to play for All India Radio, I used to play Doordarshan. I mean, interestingly, once I got a check for $200 from Doordarshan. And I said, man, this. So Ashok Patki was the music director, and I see he's such a sweet guy, because I would have got $100, $50 to come and play. So next recording at Ashok, thank you very much. So he asked me, how much did you get paid? I said, 200. Okay. So what happened? No, my check came to you. And I was, that's Doordarshan. So they said, I got $200, but he refused to take that money from me. You know what I'm saying? So it was all about music, and we wanted to play, but I wanted to do more. And with Louis, I got to do jazz, and then I got into with Nandu Bhende as Savage Encounter. So you're doing rock, and you're doing made for each other festivals from Ahmedabad to Calcutta to Delhi. So you're this traveling rock and roll band. On the other side, with Louis and Pam Crane and Ranjit Barot and Carl Peters, you're doing this jazz thing, which is Birdland concert and stuff like that. And one side you're doing Rasta Chap, on the street music. So having done all that, you want to do your own kind of music. So as a guitar player, I started getting called everywhere. And so a lot of the advertising work and ghazals and, because there's light geet, there's sangeet, there's classical, there's so many other beyond advertising. That was the other recording. There was Bollywood. That'd be, so my dad has been one of the biggest choreographers in Bollywood, P.L. Raj. So he's done Sholay, Sargam, Dawn, Kehke Pan Banas, Yahoo, Evening in Paris, Jangli, you name it, Intakam, it's a ton of hits. But so I grew up as a Bollywood kid. So I was sitting with R.D. Burman's house while they're composing, or with Lakshmikant Pyarelal, and I was the fly on the wall, or they just tell you, hey, shh, don't touch that, sit quietly. Yes, okay. But I got to see a lot of things, but I didn't want to be that. And my dad always thought, and I want to play in a band. So my dad said, no, you should play in films, because there was nowhere else you could actually earn could be a professional musician. Professional was in movies. So everybody who learned music, whether they learned classical music, they learned violin, they learned piano, they went into Bollywood. Because that's where there was work and there was money. After you learned your craft, you got somewhere to play it. I mean, there were no philharmonic orchestras or symphonies playing at that time. So Bollywood was the only place. So my dad wanted me to do that, and I didn't want to do it. And he was against it, because he thought, I think especially in the earlier days, wine, women, and song, that goes with the band. You're either drinking.
Can you talk further about this? I mean,
But it was a standard sharp. If you played in a hotel band or some.
You were playing in a cabaret,
Yeah. I did that too, but it's a slip disc.
Yeah.
So wine, women, and song. So my dad was worried that he'd start drinking, because with a band means after that, women, you're obviously going to womanize with the singer and get involved with, it's a standard thing.
Damn, that's how it works.
And it's all about song. It's all about music. So, and this is a real thing that's happened for so many musicians over the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. They've got involved with each other. All these kind of, whether it's alcohol, whether it's women, has not allowed these great artists to grow sometimes. And my dad was a little worried. He didn't want me to do that. But I was completely opposite. I'd land up at so I'd be playing at the Oberoi Hotel at the Cafe Royal in those days, and I'd be there at 5 o'clock in the evening just practicing myself. I was just about the song. Wine, I had no time. I was not into it because my dad used to drink like crazy at points, so he used to get violent. So I didn't want to have anything to do with wine. So that's a good thing. He gave me a good
Women and song we can talk about, right?
Women, I didn't have time for. Till some woman found me.
And we believe you, Les. We believe you.
It's true. It's true. I got found on a the Bombay magazine cover I was playing guitar in the Oberoi, and Jalal Laga decides to jump on the drum kit. So the photographer takes the picture because there's a film star in that thing. And that's how my first wife found me.
What was relationship from what I understand, and we'll come back to how you found your wife or she found you. But we're talking about the relationship of music to advertising, and it seems that there was a kind of a close vibe between people who created the magic and people who propagated the magic or dressed it up for communication, right?
But that's what Ambi was saying. See, what did Rahman tell him? We are stuck. We are frustrated. We want to do something, not just the regular system stuff. I don't want to just do ads.
Right.
I just want to play guitar and ads. So finally, I gave up playing guitar so that I could compose. But nobody gave me any work for the same because you're struggling to do what you want to do. And
so do you believe, Les, I'm sorry to interject, but do you believe that musicians, and I want Rahul to jump in here as well, do you believe musicians were, or indeed are, getting, the raw end of the deal? Do you believe that? And feel free to say it so that we can throw suggestions into the mix. And just while I say that, I must tell you, people here, that if you feel you want to contribute to this discussion, feel absolutely free. Like I said, there's a microphone doing the round. So, but coming back.
So I'm not sure about musicians getting the wrong end of the deal. I mean, there are a lot of similarities. I'm just listening to the stories that Leslie was saying. And I mean, I think even though, we're probably a generation apart, it's very much the same. I mean, you start off apprenticing with somebody, and it's very important because working with film, it's not like working with anything else. It's not like making a song. You're making a piece of music for a specific media, for a brand. You have to know how film works. You have to know what the brand wants. You have to be able to communicate with people. You can't just make what you want, right? You're doing it for something. It's commission work, and it's very important to get like a good grounding and understanding. So I started working with my partner Nariman, who in turn started with Ram Sampath, another very famous composer, right? I'm sure y'all have all worked with him at some point. And I think that taught me and allowed me to understand that it's not just enough to be a musician. Yes, that's one thing. But you have to think like a producer, like a film composer. There are so many other things that go along with it. Coming back to what Ambi said, it was great. There was a time when you used to be in the studio, you used to work with the person. It was like an experience. I hear stories from my older contemporaries who work, some of the engineers, about how fun it used to be in sessions. And to an extent, yes, it is the same way. Although I feel like, especially post-COVID, people aren't coming into studios anymore. I compose something, I send it off, somebody's listening to it on a phone. And when I say, come and hear it on the speakers, come and hear it in a studio, they're like, no, but this is how the consumer is going to react to it. They're going to be listening to it on the phone.
It's not the same.
In some ways, yes, it is, because the directors and all the ones you really want to get to work with are coming in, they're still coming in. There is a dialogue. I mean, music can't be made in a vacuum. That's my opinion. I don't think anything artistic can be done in a vacuum. You have to have collaborations. You have to, you're making the music for somebody else. So they have to be involved in it. And I hope, with time, things go back to going that way. I can see it starting to happen again, slowly. But
just to step in here, one of the big joys of working in advertising is you're vicariously working in films. You deal with film, music directors. You deal with, directors. You go on shoots. So you're kind of vicariously living in a different world. And therefore, all of us used to take, as youngsters, you grow up going to shoots. You look for an opportunity to go and sit with at the editing table. Look for an opportunity to go and sit with the music director when the music is being composed and add your 2 bits. Mm-hmm. Normally you're told shut up, but
but generally your two bits always help, because either I know that I should ask you to shut up because you don't know what to do. Yeah, very often they'll tell you, sir, we don't know anything about music, no, but I feel like, we should do this. So when you say you don't know anything about music, but you feel like, I believe that what you feel like is more important than knowing something about music, because at the end of the day, I want to take this, it's a piece of, like Rahul said, it's meant for some consumption by somebody's, you're being commissioned to do this. When I want to do my own songs, that's a very different thing. Then I become an independent artist. I do my own songs the way I want to. But if I'm working in advertising, I'm working for a system that requires something out of me. So,
I think also, I just want to go back. I started maybe a decade later than Ambi. when I came to Bombay.
You're being extremely nice
He's
to
lying.
each other.
He's lying.
This is
He's lying.
this is the closest we're coming to a real, honest
He's
conversation.
lying. He's lying. He's probably a few years younger than
I sat you all down by the
Decade?
side of
When
each
did it
other so
become a
that you could
decade?
kill each
In
other
Bombay,
easy.
Bombay. Okay. So I come to Bombay in 1989 and I joined Mudra as a senior copywriter. Okay. And I'm within the first week of me coming, I get a brief. So I'm like overwhelmed by Bombay, come from Bangalore with a in Suzuki bike. That's about it. And I get a brief for quality ice cream. And my creative director at the time, Walter Mendes, the guy who wrote Come Alive Taste of Nescafe, actually briefs me and says, this quality ice cream, it's seen as Mama and Papa's brand. You got to make it younger. You got to make it for the younger generation. So I was racking my brains and I said, I need to create a campus lingo, right? So I came up with this phrase, go bonkers. And then I presented it internally and Mr. Krishnamurthy got very excited and he said, I'm going to get you the best talent. And Shantanu Shori walks into office. I'm saying, wow, Shantanu Shori is here and he's going to do the film.
And not his wife.
No, Shantanu was enough for me. It was big enough name. And Shantanu says, hey, this needs a jingle, right? So, have you heard of Leslie Lewis? So I'm saying, yeah, sort of, yeah. I was new to Bombay, right? So he says, okay, we go to XIC, we're going to meet Leslie, and can you write a jingle out? Before we go. So I wrote the jingle, go bonkers, oh yeah, something, quality ice cream. Okay, so we go. Now talking of collaboration, right? This is where I go and just give these lyrics to Les. And Les is sitting at the table and within an hour he comes back and says, hey, I've got this idea like a, Bobby McFerrin kind of bass line. And he came and he sang out the entire jingle. Go bonkers, oh yeah. Done. I was made within a week of coming to Bombay. I had this incredible jingle, film shot by Shantanu Shori. It was the biggest hit. Quality ice cream took off, and I had arrived in advertising. Thanks to Mr. Leslie.
Listen, you owe him one. Yeah?
I don't think it's thanks to me. It's a collaborative. It's always a
Yeah, but it
collaborative
is
effort.
like that.
But
Right?
just by the way, I charge 10% on all deals. Just saying. No, but that's incredible. See, we spoke about stuff in advertising and music in advertising, and I want to ask a slightly more specific question. Now, we've seen the Doodh bit, which talks about Amul. We've seen washing powder Nirma, let's say, where the name of the brand or the product was put out there, unabashedly. And that, to a limited understanding that I have, brought about this recall value for the brand. I just want your thoughts because a lot of stuff you see us today are stories that talk about the vibe behind a product or a brand, and they're not as direct, if that's the word to use, when you talk about the name of the brand. It's not necessarily used. Just a quick thoughts, from y'all on how important was it then to use the names, washing powder Nirma. So Nirma stuck whether you like it or
Brief
not.
us as many times it can come in 30 seconds, 20 seconds. Just repeat that word as many times. The jingle's great.
Nirma.
Nirma. Nirma. That's it. You got it. It's a hit.
No, but just transfer that vibe to today. And maybe Rahul, you want to take this? Is it?
I think that's very product based, to be honest with you. But I feel like there's a lot of my briefs are never use the product name. I mean, it's very, very rare that I do something. It's like even if I do like say a car brand, I never once will you hear like Toyota Glanza or something like that. It's just it's absurd to think about it. And I think at least with taste changing or at least consumers, I mean, people want music. I think the format of the jingle is somewhat different today. I mean, you can call any piece of music on an ad a jingle, but I mean, in my mind, a jingle is Nirma, it's Doodh, it's all those
And
things.
it got lyrics in it. No?
It's got lyrics and it then definitely says something about the brand name. Today, I think that's perceived as a little corny. No disrespect to the people who created those things. Because tastes have changed, times have changed.
And also, the other problem, Rahul, is that it's become uncool to use a brand name, and therefore most creative directors will be caught dead writing Humara Bajaj. Because brand name, and you can't write anything better. But even then, sometimes, Chax did this great track for Docomo, which was done by, Ram
did it.
Docomo.
Right.
Suddenly it broke through. It just broke through. That very campaign went through the roof, and the brand did very well as long as it lasted. But he said we will put this brand name in a musical tune.
True.
And it worked. But but it's very uncool today. You go and tell someone repeating the brand name 3-4 no.
But that's the exception. Same time period, same composer, the Airtel jingle, Aaj har friend zaruri hota hai. That tagline stuck, and he wrote it, but that's more of a song. I mean, it has nothing now mentions the brand.
That's my point. In the older days, a lot of music came on radio, so there was no visual. So you had to have a hook line or something that you
with the brand name in it.
Nothing. Hey, gold, small, blah, thumbs up, drink. That guy's going on the station, and you hear this thing, and you know it's that guy selling cold drinks.
But now you have the visual on the screen. You have the title of the brand right now on the left top or right top. That substitutes the jingle now. You don't have a word.
Yeah, but in the 80s,
can we capture that on the microphone because please.
Okay, I'm going to repeat myself.
Sorry, I'm Sunil Bhatia. What he was saying is you have Nirma repeatedly, and you said now it's a radio jingle. So now it's become like a visual text there, which every brand has on, in their advert. So you don't need to repeatedly say it in the audio. You know what I mean? Because you have that visual connect now.
Correct. And I'm saying even now that the video came in, when ads started happening, it was still shot by camera. Somebody who had, he wrote the jingle, the film, there was a short breakdown. Things were worked out, and then it was shot accordingly, and there was a tune that carried that thing. Ever since computer graphics have come in, it's a complete change. You don't need that song. It keeps disturbing this tug. It's so buzzy that you just want a vibe. So like what he's saying today is I would just do a vibe, maybe the feel of it, to let that film go through.
No, I think what Leslie's saying is, it was basically a hangover of the radio era.
Correct.
That got into early advertising, right? So radio was all about jingles. You had to have lyrics about the product. It washes better, it cleans better, it lights better, etc. All sung, right? That got into the earlier advertising jingles, etc. But even those days, if you look at, there was Humara Bajaj, there was washing powder Nirma with the brand name built in. But if you go to Titan, no brand name.
But strong mnemonic.
Very strong, so right? Ting, ting, ting.
That was at 8:30 in the morning.
No brand name. But again, so the power of sound, I think.
Okay, I'm going to use an analogy actually to throw another point for discussion. We talk about Hindi films. No Hindi film or no film is really complete without a lot of music / songs and whatever. And I come from a time when in the Hindi films, it was an Amitabh song or a Vinod Khanna song or a Rishi Kapoor song. Most often people didn't even know who the singer was or who the music director was in the film, right? It was so skewed towards the visual. I'm using the same analogy, in the scene here with artists, both, singers, creators, versus, let's say, the advertising / brand representatives. How can we artists, I know, and I'd like to talk about this. I know that there is a vibe, a definite vibe that artists feel whether it is under-recognized, underpaid, and various other complaints that they have happening today. Happened then, happens today. Then it was more acceptable. Today it wasn't. And I want to discuss that because I think today the time is right for us to actually give people their pride of place, irrespective of which side of the team they represent. Rahul, I'm going to lean on you for this
So
one.
straight up, I think artists today, the biggest difference is that you have a mouthpiece in your pocket. You can, like, creativity is democratized. Everybody in this room is a creator. You can just whip out your phone, put a YouTube video, and if you have something interesting to say or sing, you have an audience built in right there, you know. And I think a lot of brands are taking that. I mean, at least the smart artists or the ones who have one eye on that side of it know how to monetize their own brand and know how to use their brand to then help sell other things. I mean, for lack of a better word, I think you're going to see more and more of that. I think, you know, smartphone penetration is huge. In like another 5 or 6 years, everybody is going to have a phone.
You were talking you were talking about QR codes, right? About artists, you know, and what they put out. And
look, I mean, all I can say is that, look, in the past, you had like what, one or two, radio and television, right? And you were force fed the message through those two things. There was no internet, there's nothing. Today, you wake up, you are bombarded with information from the moment you get up to the moment you sleep. You can choose what entertainment you want whenever you want it. So you're competing with 10,000 other things for attention to try and keep something there, right? Now, a song definitely has value. It's just like Rajeev said, you remember the ting ting ting, you remember the tunes, you remember something about it. And I think a song lives in your mind for a lot longer than a lot of other things possibly can, right? I mean, I feel there are so many times when we do a commercial, we still do songs for commercial. We might not have the brand name, we might not call them a jingle, but we do a ton of songs. And very often, I mean, I have a, like I say, I put a reel page up of my YouTube, on YouTube of my work. There are millions of people who write, you know, release the song, we want a full song, you know. And if brands take notice of that, it's very easy then for them to come to an artist or come to me, a composer, and say, hey, you know, this is doing really well for us. We'd like you to create a 2-minute song. We'll put it up on Spotify. We'll put it up on YouTube. And, you know, or we'll tag the ad, say it does really well. QR code is just an example because every phone has a scanner, right? Here's a link to the full song.
Right.
So the brand can live in the memory of the song. It takes a life of its own then. It'll be allowed to just be more than the 5, 10, 30 seconds that you get to see it, right?
Speaking of listening to the full song, again, this is an open-ended question. I mean, our attention spans are tightening and tightening and tightening. I mean, today, like you rightly said, there are various options beyond the television and the radio. Thanks to digital and its invasion in our lives, and I say this happily. Having said that, I mean, you've got, you know, OTT platforms where you can skip ads. Even on television, you know, people hoped that they could skip ads. I mean, why is this happening? If ads, as we claim, are relevant, are enjoyable, useful, albeit from a brand perspective, is it that consumer tastes are changing or consumption patterns are changing so radically? Or is it that we are not really catering to the consumer's taste? It's an open-ended, like I said, question, but I'd like to spend a little time just getting your thoughts on
See,
this.
first of all, I don't think anybody finds ads enjoyable except for the people who work in them. I think most people find them like irritating. It's just a music.
Kids love it. Kids love advertising.
No. Let
Maybe your
Okay.
No. So
Tan,
now,
tan, tan.
Yeah. I'm liking where this is going.
now, I mean, I'm. Let me first, honest confession, I'm not working in any advertising agency today. I've not been working in advertising now for 6 years. It's going to be 7 years in March, right? But I worked in advertising in my 40-year career. I was in advertising for probably 30 years out of that 40 years. It's fashionable to say that people hate advertising, etc., etc., etc. It's fashionable to say that. But unlike the US, I think in India, fortunately for people like Rajeev, people like Leslee, we've had very enjoyable advertising, right? In fact, a lot of ads used to be, and I still believe they still are, very enjoyable because of the music, because of the casting, because of the acting, and because the attention to detail. I mean, I still play that. It didn't have music in it, but I still play the Mudra's, Dara commercial in my classes when I teach. It always brings the house down. All I have to say is, I've got, when I talk about my Nawab Noodles book, and I say, I've got one film where I think is the best film probably ever made in India featuring a child. Any guess? And someone in the class who's probably was not even born when the ad was made. The ad was made 26 years ago. Dara. I said, what's so great about Dara? Jalebi, right? And do you know the jalebi was actually thought of during the shoot by White Light?
Yeah.
The original script was
I was
kachori.
part of the production, so.
So the original script said kachori, and they changed it to jalebi, right? This guy Jagdish Acharya came and told me that.
I wouldn't remember that.
Yeah, Jagdish came and told me that. So you're in White Light, yeah.
I was at that point.
Yeah. So it was actually, I think Nomita who changed it to jalebi, right? So they used to put so much attention, love into every ad they made, and actually the ads were better than the programming, right? And so people used to love advertising, right?
That's true.
I hope and pray that they still like the advertising.
See, there's exceptions. Like, I think everybody would know the cred commercials that are really popular right now. I don't think anybody skips a cred commercial. Even if you've seen it 7 or 8 times, you watch it. Those are really good. I mean, there are always going to be exceptions to any
But
rule.
Rahul, just
right?
to come in, unfortunately, in the US, advertising is hated because a lot of US advertising is buy this today, buy this today, buy this today. Whereas we, fortunately, because of our filmy heritage, our theatre heritage, the kind of people who came into advertising those days and then later, our advertising was always a lot enjoyable. Again, I'm biased. Huh? A lot enjoyable.
No, it was. It certainly was.
The
Absolutely.
Hollywood advertising is much more better than US. Much better.
Yeah.
But if I can just add to this, talking of short attention spans, now the truth is that if you're looking at the future with a crystal ball, right, there is a clear trend here. Now, just to give you an example, if the television in my house conks out tomorrow, I think I'll probably be the only guy who's saying, hey man, I can't watch football on the big screen or cricket on the big screen. My kids, forget it. They are not worried if the television screen no longer works. Okay, because they're consuming content today, including television, on their phones or on their laptops, right? So therefore, when you're consuming content in such a small format medium, it's much more intimate, and therefore in that medium, ads come through as intrusive. Okay? We all know we are watching something on Facebook, shit, bloody ad comes in. You're watching something on YouTube, shit, ad comes in. Right? On television, it's okay because you're sitting at home, you poured yourself a drink, there's an ad break, it's fine, you'll watch that was the earlier consumption pattern. But today, that's not the consumption pattern, the trend rather, right? So therefore, the whole thing is brands are also realizing that they cannot be as in your face as they were in the earlier era. So it is not one, yes?
I think you guys are all sitting in Bandra recording this show, and you think the whole world, whole of India is watching things only on mobile phones. I'm sorry. 40%,
Well, the whole of India
40% of advertising still happens on TV.
Yeah.
And it happens on TV because, clients are not fools. Because it works. Television works. Television is more credible. I mean,
It's more expensive.
Television is, and YouTube should.
For a reason.
YouTube was charging too much also, whatever CPM rates were 200 rupees or whatever. So advertising, there's still a lot of advertising happening on TV.
Sure.
And a lot of it is still enjoyable. I'm again biased. So it's easy for us to sit here and say, oh, everyone is no one is watching TV, everyone's consuming mobile, blah, blah, blah. It's true. Your children, highly educated, etc. So they're watching on mobile.
Not highly educated. I'm sorry. My
Guns loaded.
Nobody I see in Bombay is watching television nowadays.
Okay, so I'll take you
That's
to
the
a friend.
truth.
I'll take you to a friend's house. Here, creative director, genius, he's retired, but his TV is on all the time in his house. Yeah, I keep getting irritated. I go, Arun, क्यों बंद क्यों नहीं? Then चलने दो. And then suddenly it's a chop ad. He's not watching the programming, he's watching the ad. Chup kar. Sorry, I think this.
Yeah, no, so there's a gentleman here.
Yeah, hello, gentlemen. My name is Vedant Naik. So my question actually, and firstly, can I just say I attest to what Ambi was saying about advertising in the US. I worked as a copywriter there for 4 years. And I feel that the ads there are more focused on the writing than the music because a lot of the jingles are based on the copywriting there. And secondly, something that Rajeev said, which is that, YouTube, an ad comes up, or Spotify, an ad comes up. A lot of these platforms, they actively encourage people to skip ads, or even ensure that ads don't play by uh, paying into their subscription program. And do you feel that now there are organizations like Spotify and YouTube that are actively trying to encourage people to avoid advertising by just shelling out a little money? And how has that affected the advertising industry at large?
That's a very tough question, right? But that's exactly what he
Good
was
question.
saying. That
Yeah.
on TV you can't skip the ad. So on TV it's going to work. So if they're going to put that stuff on TV, you're going to watch it, or you're just going to have to wait. But with the skip ad, like you said, they're trying to get you to subscribe, and it's not about the advertising. In fact, they want to irritate you with the
The
advertising.
other problem with the skip ad is they allow you to run 5 seconds of ad without charging you for it. As a result, all the product managers and brand managers and account executives figured out your ad has to be in first 5 seconds mein full message bol do.
Correct.
Because after that the customer is going to skip. So if your whole messaging is compressed to 4.5 seconds, where is the time for emotion? Where is the time for music? Where's the time for anything?
Let's get back to music.
So it's terrible, right? So I think you're making a very right point, saying, look, Spotify and YouTube's belief is we want paid customers who will not be delivered ads, and therefore I'm going to get customers to actually skip ads, and I'll tell them, you can skip ads, you have to just pay me 35 rupees a month, right? And done. So probably that's also happening, but it's also had a very bad effect on advertising. Most ads today, I mean, for example, we made the Naukri commercial. Some of you may remember, Hari Sadhu, H for Hitler, A for Aragada, right? That kind of an ad, the brand name appears in the 25th second, and it appears for 2 seconds. First 24 seconds, there's no brand name. Now, will I be able to even think of running it on YouTube? I will not. Because the first 5 seconds, mein kuch bolna chahiye. Sir, rin, and then the ad starts, right? Before that, I've delivered rin. Before you skip, rin bol diya. Chalo, through. So that's having a negative effect on advertising.
Okay.
So tragic. Sorry.
Yeah, one more question, and then we come to brand
Hi,
music.
I'm Chinwag. I'd probably disagree with the notion that YouTube doesn't like ads. I mean, they make several billions of dollars a year on ads. I think what they basically, they make billions. Their business is advertising. So I think what they're trying to do is really optimize ads so that someone who doesn't want to see an ad will skip it. But someone who does want to see it, therefore, is being served a far more highly targeted ad. So I would probably just kind of
No,
take
so
it
you
as
have a
that.
valid
Yeah.
point there, but
There's a
are
trend.
there
clear
evolving
trend.
trends or
100%.
changes is really what we want to get to know a little bit more of. Speaking of which, I want to come to you, Rajeev, brand music, where you're integrating music with logos, with the brand. Give us the thought behind why you're investing time, effort, and all of your equity. Let us quickly know what the story is, what your belief is, both behind your spending time and effort as also your vision for it.
Yeah, I think it's linked to a lot of things we spoke about.
And if you get any business from this group, 10%.
Yes, I'm carrying my business cards. 11 years back, I was National Creative Director at DDB Mudra and working on Volkswagen, great brand. We doing great work. But I was playing music all my life. I was a musician before I got into advertising. So I remember I had a very big concert at the NCPA with some seriously happening musicians. And I found that I wasn't able to give enough time for my practice every day, my riyaz. And as a result, I was actually not able to come up to the mark that I had wanted to for that concert. It was a moment of awakening, and I decided that day that I'm going to quit advertising and I'm going to spend the rest of my life around music. Now, I couldn't just take the flute and go with my band and I play in the jazz and fusion space. There's no money in it. Okay. I had to support the family. So I spoke to the family and said, hey, I'm going to quit. But I was racking my brains. How do I monetize my passion? So I worked with brands. I've been a musician. How do I bring these two worlds together? So the easiest thing would have been to start a jingle shop, right? Because I was also known even in advertising as a musician. But even those days, we realized that, the jingle was something of the past. And the future really lay in this whole area called sonic branding. So what is sonic branding? Just as every brand has a visual identity, every brand has a logo, every brand has a set of colors that you associate with it, which doesn't come randomly. It's designed according to the culture the brand is operating in, the competition, etc., the category. Similarly, we believe that every brand needs to have a sonic essence, which reflects its personality, right? So when we look at the rich legacy of India, the raga system, what we call the rasas, which is how do you evoke emotions through artistic expression, when we studied all that, we understood we could create an entire framework which would understand the DNA of a brand, the emotional essence of a brand, and using the science of sound, be able to express the essence of that brand, right? So if we are talking of a motorbike brand, you wouldn't hear a melody like ra, 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 right? You'd probably hear a rock guitar. That's giving you that feeling of thrill and excitement. But on the other hand, if you're talking J&J Baby, you're talking of a sonic palette which is, kind of thing. So that's where the exploration started. We started creating this entire framework, which was to understand what a brand is all about, go deep into the essence of a brand, and then create the essence of its sound. We created a term we call MOGO, or musical logo. And surrounding it is a MOGO-scape, which is the sonic palette of the brand. And that is really where we are. It's been 11 years. And today, it's still an emerging field, sonic branding, but it's exploding. We thought we'll close down during COVID. We doubled our turnover during COVID because the digital medium has come in. Short attention spans, MOGO. Less overt, in-your-face advertising by brands, more experience, brand experience. Therefore, a sonic field that accompanies the brand wherever it goes. And that is really the future of sound as far as I'm concerned, which is why I say I'm not in advertising. I'm in music for brands, which is much larger than just creating a jingle or creating something for a TV spot. Now you're suddenly talking of what we call ear points. You used to say, right? Touch points.
Yeah.
I'm visually consistent across touch points. You'd say you have to be sonically consistent across ear points, right? So it's no longer OTS was the media term. We say today you have to talk of OTH, opportunity to hear. It's not just opportunity to see. So these two have to come together. And if your audio and visual work in a branded way, there's an exponential kind of impact of the brand.
That's a really, really effective summation of our discussion today about the role of music, in broadly speaking, advertising, but in branding, as you've just pointed out. We will charge you for the advertisement that you just put out in the
This episode is sponsored by.
And I'm getting free booze also.
Tavish, you lied to him? Okay, I'm going to very quickly ask for final comments on, I'm really disappointed, guys, that you're all sitting and smiling at each other. I really was hoping to close with the announcement of Funeral Leaves residence tomorrow morning at, since that's not happening, we might as well get to know final comments and close the evening. We'll throw it open as well, like I've said, right through to all our friends sitting here, because it's your opinion, as was, a few of you who put out questions or contributions. Please feel free to do so. I can see Alex looking enthusiastic. So, yeah, as also Ajit.
I have a two-part question based on what you just said, short attention spans, and Reels is everything right now. Everyone's always on Reels or on YouTube Shorts. So one is, as a consumer, right, what do you all think that this has done to the whole music space? Because, I'm in the restaurant business. I literally have influencers coming to me saying, I need a space to do hook steps. and even musicians, like the other day we were talking to some musicians who perform, and they're like, shit, what will happen to our songs? We're making long songs where people are only listening to 10 seconds or 15 seconds. So A, what do you think it's done to the whole music space? And B, as a brand custodian, how do you think we can capitalize on this without keeping your brand in your face? Because what Instagram tells us is use trending songs in your reels, right? Otherwise your ad or your reel won't get the reach. Now I'm left banking on a song on which people are already making reels for my brand or my content to get that kind of reach. What should I do? What suggestions do you all have for brand people in general who want to use a medium which everybody is literally looking at all the time? So yeah.
I can answer the second question first. I think the first question we should ask Leslie to answer, which is how musicians are going to deal with shorter formats. But before that, I'll just answer I think for brands, that's why it's important to have a sonic identity that accompanies your brand, right? So a sonic identity could be as short as we created the global sound for MasterCard. Now, there is something we've created called a mini Mogo, which is 1.5 seconds, right? Then there is the Mogo, which is 4 seconds. Then there is the Mogoscape, which can be 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 50 seconds, 90 seconds, whatever you want. So whatever the brand's requirements are, the same identity will present itself in different forms. So there's a consistency of sound, whether it's reels or whether it's a much longer, 3-minute video episode that they are
But
sponsoring.
how do I popularize that on Instagram? Because it's not commercial. It's not a trending sound. It's not.
Yeah. So that's
where we struggle.
There's a new concept called sonic watermarking, which is no brand logo, only a brand Mogo. So nobody knows it's branded, but it's going in subliminally, right? But it's still your brand sound. Okay, so it's a lot to talk about, but maybe Les could answer your first question, which is shorter formats and how do musicians deal with this?
I can tell you about myself because we started doing ads for like 90 seconds. The normal ad was 1 minute. And then it got to 45, and got to 30, 20, 10. So what's happening is with this attention span, ever since social media has come in, it's reduced everybody's attention span. And like you can see now it's gone to reels and people don't have the space. Now, if I want to live my life creating music for social media, then I have to shed everything about songs, melodies. Like I have to do what he does. 1.5 seconds, 4 seconds. Yeah, I mean that's
exactly
that's the only music you're going to get, because like even Brian said, there's no room for music. There's no music. What about emotion? Whatever, all those things. So you need time. So you can talk about the old songs, but that's about emotion. That's about giving it enough time to sink in. So now with things like reels and all, I totally get it. What I did, I'm telling you about me, is I was doing 1 ad, 2 ads a day on my own, and then I said I was burning out. So this was before Colonial Cousins also, and I said, man, I'm not like the musician in me is getting burnt out. So I'm probably the only music director in advertising or anywhere to work 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You want to work with me? We work Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What's the date? Check the day. If it's on a Wednesday, if it's Tuesday, sorry, I'm busy. I'm going fishing. And that's what I did. I went fishing, or I came to your office and discussed next week's ad that we want to do. But I'm not going to sit in the studio. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and everybody said you're going to lose all your work. I said, doesn't matter. I stuck it out 3 years. I did Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That saved me. That allowed me to retain my musicality, and that's what you're hearing as Colonial Cousins, where I could breathe. But I had to do 1 minute jingles, 45 seconds, 30 seconds to keep myself going. Now tomorrow, if I have to do reels, I'm cool. I've been doing it all my life. What we've been doing as ads is today's reels. In 1 minute, in 30 seconds, in 15 seconds, but that's what I'm good at. So I can do a reel if you want me to do a reel. But on the flip side, like Brian knows, I've just released my first solo independent album. I'm still going with the song format. It's a 3-minute, 4-minute song. And hopefully you like it. But that's what I want to do for my soul. Just like I took 3 days off and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I took the other days off, went fishing. I'm saying I'm still making songs for myself, for my soul. But yeah, if you want to do like a 20-second, I'm here. I do it all the time. I'm doing an ad tomorrow. So I'm still doing commercials, but I'm doing it for, like you said, rightly said, it's for the thing. So you're going to have to decide what you're doing it for. If it's for social media, and you want to be a complete social media convert, then you're going to have to give up your songs. You have to give up your music. You can't win all. In life, you win some, you lose some.
See, just to add to what they've said, Alex, I don't have an answer to you, but you need to have a brand strategy. Your brand strategy cannot be dictated by Insta saying reels for 15 seconds. You have an overall brand strategy, which may include variety of things. An Insta 15-second reel should be part of that. Rather than optimizing your entire brand strategy, brand music, everything to a 15-second Insta reel. Can't be. No, that's the recipe for disaster. A lot of brands are doing it because, a lot of brand managers are mistaking activity for achievement, right? So you do 20 things because, I need to do this. Messi scored a goal. I need to post something, on social media on that. What the hell for? What does Messi scoring a goal got to do with your brand? So this whole mania about moment marketing, etc., is wrong. You need to decide what is my brand, what does my brand stand for, where does Insta Reel fit in, and how will I use it, rather than the other way that Insta, given a choice, Meta wants all your money, right?
Yeah.
And more, right? So you got to keep them out. So, sorry, this is my strategy. Can you guys fulfill this? Can you deliver 1 million views of this? Then let's talk business. Don't come and tell me, do that, Pushpa song. What are the chung 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 song, chung chung, some song is there, right? That kind of a thing you make, now I will give you 1 million deal. Sorry, I will not make that. Doesn't fit in with my Smoke House brand identity. I can't do that. Whatever that girl dancing, right? It became a big hit, no? Forget that song, yeah. Which
many songs.
someone help me, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, some girl dancing, So no, I'm sorry, that doesn't fit in with Smoke House Deli. I will not make a 15-second Insta thing just because that is easy for you to spread. Sorry, where does it fit in your overall brand? And then tell them this is what I'll pay for it. If you pay, they'll deliver the impressions, right? So don't get your brand. The problem is if you start doing all these things, your brand start going left, right, and within 6 months you don't know what's your brand. If you don't know what's your brand, your customers doesn't know what your brand is. Therefore, you're lost. And then,
speaking of Meta, I mean, I was very tempted to dwell on that because that's going to change things even more. But I do believe that that's for another discussion. Probably will take an entire evening to sit down and discuss potential or otherwise. But Ajit, we have time maybe for a final one, and you were looking if we can have mic given to Ajit.
Hi, I'm Ajit, and I'm from Idea Brew Studios. So we are a podcast company, right? And we work with Brian, and we put together the Chinwag Collective. Something from Rajeev, sir. You spoke about your memory about writing Go Bonkers, right? One of the challenges that we have today when we talk to brands and try to get brands onto podcasting is to think long form. A large part of the fraternity who writes today probably writes 30 seconds.
Right.
They've been groomed or trained or been, raised with the fact that 30 seconds may create something nice. So one of the challenges that we have when we go to brands is, can you write 30 episodes? How does a copywriter brace to such a challenge? Given that podcasting is here to stay, we are in a forum like this, which is a podcast, right? Easy for a brand to slip in and be part of such wonderful stories. But if I had to go out to a brand and kind of give out this fantastic pitch, right? How does a copywriter today brace himself for writing long form, right? And then bring in music and all those wonderful terms that you'll use, sonic effects and all of that for long forms. How does somebody... Actually, this is a question more for a tip so that I can go and pitch it to some
10%.
I think it will have to evolve because copywriter steeped in his current sort of window or horse blinkers is not going to find it easy to move into the long format. It's like when we got into advertising, we were like the TV generation. We watched TV in our homes, but a lot of the earlier writers could only write for radio or could only write for print, right? So writing for TV is different from writing for radio, for example. So that evolution has to happen. And I would say that long format writers also, as podcasts grow, you will find more and more writers coming in, youngsters. So one tip is actually to catch youngsters who are coming out of film writing schools, right? Where they have learned the long format writing. Now, my younger daughter, for example, now she's got into copywriting. So she's back to short format. But before that, she couldn't write short format. She could only write long format because she had written 10 Bollywood scripts during her film school, right? So you need to find writers who are in the long format space before, I won't use the word corrupted, before they get,
And to think audio when you write.
No, but the question.
It's audio, exactly.
But what was the question? Were you asking you want people to write podcasts for you? Or do you want people to write ads which run in podcasts for you?
Brands, if they had to create content using the long format for audio.
For audio.
Okay, so you want
podcast.
someone to sit and write a podcast show for a client.
It could be it could be a fiction.
What's the context?
Yeah, so that's
So today brands talk about creating stories, right?
Okay.
And stories that are long form.
So that's, I think what he said is right. You know, the other thing is, I find a lot of youngsters listen to podcasts. So you got to find people who listen to podcasts. They understand podcasts and they can write podcasts for you. You know, someone who's done advertising copy, or he or she's not going to be able to write a podcast. Podcast calls for different kind of writing, right? So you need to find the right person. And what you said is right. Today, again, there is a problem with advertisers' understanding of podcasting. A lot of them are seeing podcasting as having a let's say a commercial message in a podcast, like a commercial message in a radio show, which is wrong, right? The involvement level of a podcast listener is 10x.
True.
That of, radio is something you're doing, you're driving car, something else. But a podcast is you're listening it much more intensely, which is why globally it's recognized that if for example, a show which Brian is doing, in the middle of Brian says, this show has been brought to you by so-and-so, and then he tells a little story about them, which could be a 1-minute story, not a 30-minute story, a 1-minute story that is 10 times more effective than a TV spot or a radio spot. Indian clients, unfortunately, many of them are wanting to create those really hick 15-minute podcasts. I've done a few, terrible. But they say, no, it's full from the beginning to the end. The whole podcast is about that mutual fund. Sorry, no one is going to listen to it. But they don't understand. They don't understand that in a podcast, which is, let's say, 60 minutes, you got 10 minutes or 5 minutes of advertising. That advertising is gold because that person is listening to it for 60 minutes, right? And that Brian comes and says, this message is brought to you by Microsoft, blah, 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 and links Microsoft to the show. That is a lot more effective. I mean, that, it's difficult to convince clients. It's a tough sell. So you're in the missionary phase of selling. In India, television has gone through that. I remember meeting Kalanidhi Maran in Chennai when he had launched Sun TV, and we were in a party together, and he was telling me, sir, advertising is very difficult, sir. It's very difficult to get ads. Right? 6 months he was struggling, he was not getting ads. Right? Then he set up a different way of selling ads. He started making ads for those local, hair oil and supari makers, not the in Bombay supari, the other ordinary. Ashoka, you put in a mouth, that kind of supari. He started making all that, to get people to come on to television.
Tavish is going to put out a supari on me if I don't move to the next question. So, how about you? Identify yourself and...
Hello, my name is Advait. So I want to ask something which is about the immersive worlds and metaverse. So how do we envision music and sound into the Gen Z people, and how would the role of music would interact in the virtual worlds, basically in the metaverse, the gaming which is much more cinematic nowadays, right? And how could we in the Indian space could leverage that?
I'm tempted to say buy a house next to Snoop Dogg's in the metaverse. You might have to pay a premium, but that's the closest you can get. Sorry, that is a really bad one, but I actually read about this. Not an answer to your question.
No, I think music will have to be much more experiential in the metaverse. It'll have to be much more immersive, less intrusive. Unless somebody is coming to consume the musical content, then that's a different matter. But if it's there, say during an e-commerce experience, which is virtual, the music has to maybe serve an immersive role, at the same time maybe a navigational role, where once you've, say, picked a certain product, there is a musical cue. Now, if that's all related to the brand that it's coming from, those are the possibilities. The second possibility, I think, is going to be the emergence of avatars. And with each avatar, there's a possibility that you can create a unique sound which is identifiable for that person's avatar. So there is
Back to Mogo.
the Mogo, yeah, my Mogo. It's my Mogo, right?
Yeah.
So
He just multiplied his business by 8 billion.
exactly, that's where we are going. That's exactly where we're going. Personal branding and how sound. Everyone in this room can have their own unique
Coming to
sound.
personal branding, my latest book is on personal branding. I should plug. All the world's a stage. Book called All the World's a Stage.
Yeah.
It's a personal branding story. So I'm plugging my bit.
And I've read that, and I enjoyed every paragraph.
Thank you, Brian.
For the
So how
cost
do we
of
start
coming
with
to
audio
what-
branding? Should I join your firm?
Come. Our office is very
the
close by.
question-
I'm serious. Just give me a call.
So the question you asked about music in the metaverse, I'm saying nothing's going to work from here on until it's, like he said, experiential. If you can't, because you've seen TV, you've seen mobile phone, you've seen DVDs, you've seen rock concerts on TV. I want to be in it. That immersive space is really the future. So even now, whatever I'm doing live gigs, it's every day I'm doing the same songs, but it's a new audience. It's always been like that from the Beatles or from whatever.
Yeah.
That's the same songs, but it's that immersive feeling, which you could buy a ticket for that. But once it goes to meta, then how are they going to get music to make you feel that you are in it?
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
social animals at the end of the day, and nothing can replace or even come close, I dare say, to
We're
an
back to the
evening
same
like
thing.
this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
whereas-
American Pie. Don
Yeah.
McLean was performing
Yeah.
in I think Dublin, and we were there. And then he said this. He said, "Look, people ask me, why do you sing the same, Vincent and American Pie? People have heard it, versions of it." He said, "But you people have come to listen to that."
Correct.
And he played it at the last end of the show. So we're not waiting. When is he going to play that? When is he going to play?
Yeah.
When is he going to play? And then he says, "Okay, I know what you come for. I'm starting." And then he started. Right? Because you want to feel it. Audience, when they're sitting and listening to a song they've heard 100 times, they're actually co-creating it with the artist.
Yeah, and you got to sing it live. If you have a recorded version, then it's like listening to your, playlist or something, and then you can get it at home, you can hear it in your car. To hear the same song by the same artist, some who sings it every night is never perfectly the same. And that difference is what you experience that night when the next guy doesn't experience the next day.
And also what's going to happen is there's going to be a convergence of technology. For example, we sit in our homes and we have 5.1 and 7.1, etc. Now, all the Dolby Atmos, etc. They're just all going to get into the virtual space. So very soon on headphones, you will be able to get 7.1.
So that exists already.
It already exists,
The
right?
binaural sound already
Yeah, binaural
exists.
sound.
And
So
that is the future.
that's going to be the convergence now, where just through your headphones you're going to be in, and sound is going to play a big role in that.
And for the lot of the artists who are creators, whatever, they're going to go away because AI is going to take over. It's already taken over in a lot of ways. So you can learn and go to college and do learn all the music you want and study it all, and then you'll have no job because somebody else will be doing it. So I'm not sound. I don't want to sound like like voice of the doom or something, but it's a fact, and it's going there. I mean, today I can create a whole background film score, 15 seconds, but you want to hear it like maybe a 1960s chase sequence. I can do it. Press every track, every sync mark, everything is in place. Let's try Mission Impossible. I think in the newer 10 seconds. That's all it takes. So what happens to all the musicians who we spent like days and days creating, learning your music? So I'm not saying don't learn. You still need to learn your art and craft, but it's going in that AI space. So experiential is the only way. Right now, there's no robo of me. So I can still get on stage and do my thing and still be me till they find somebody to be me.
There was a question from the back as well. Yeah.
Hi guys, Althea here. We were talking about mogos, right? What do you feel about legacy brands switching their mogos to get in with the time? Like for instance, Namak Ho Tata ka Tata Namak. Okay, they tried to evolve from that, and when I was working on the brand like few years back, they wanted to go back from the thing they evolved to the old one because they realized maybe they made a mistake, letting go of that. As legacy brands, would you say that they should evolve or stick to what they had?
Well, okay. If I can answer just from a musical point of view. Maybe Ambi can add from a brand strategy point of view. But look, anybody, all of us, if you look at us as brands, I've changed the way my hair is, right? I don't have the same hairstyle that I had when I was 18 years old. So brands also have to evolve with the times, but they don't have to suddenly change what they stand for or their personality, because suddenly if I start behaving like somebody I'm not, then it's not going to cut through, right? Or it's not going to ring true. So therefore, even in terms of the brand sound, it has to be consistent with the truth of the brand, and the truth of the brand has to evolve with the times without necessarily losing your essence. Like none of us have lost our essence by our evolution and our growth, and I don't want to say the word aging, but so also with brands. I think it's exactly like human beings. You can't suddenly change and say, "Hey man, I'm a cool dude." That won't ring true for me. Brands can't do that. Sound is a big part of that, so they cannot change their basic sonic essence, right? Ambi, you want to?
Yeah, I think if you're going to go back to something which you think worked very well for you in the past, you got to confirm that it's really worth going back, because it's, if your brand has moved forward, like for example, Tata was Desh ka Namak, Tata, they had that Tata Namak, Namak ko Tata ka Tata Namak, ye factory mein bani, ye kiya, wo kiya. I remember the first advertising, and then later they moved to Desh ka Namak. And now you say, no, I want to go back to showing my factory and where my salt is being made, and I'll play this song about Namak ko Tata ka Namak. Bada factory mein bani, ye bana, wo bana, Namak ko Tata ka Tata Namak. You think it'll still work? I doubt it.
It's a regression, actually.
You got to be 100% sure.
Maybe they wanted to go back to it.
Yeah, so they can test it out. But my feeling is that's gonna make the brand look even older. Every brand wants to look young today, right? So you'll end up making, it's like Nirma going and doing washing powder, Nirma washing powder. But sometimes you do it cleverly, it works, right? I mean, Cadbury did it recently with that flipping, kya swad hai zindagi ka. They flipped the boy girl. It worked nicely. It was cute. It worked for a period of time. It may not work in the long term. But okay, if they bring back Zuzu may work. If they bring back that boy with the little dog chasing the boy, or whatever, boy chasing dog, dog chasing boy, whatever it is, so it'll work, because it'll come back for a period. After that, the brand has to move forward. Brand has to move either with the consumer or have to be slightly ahead of the consumer, right? And if you don't do that, you're going to look old, you're going to look boring. So brands have to be interesting. Even if you're salt, even if it's tea, you got to be interesting. You won't be interesting if you play 1960s and 70s, messages. And that's my 2 bits.
Okay. Thank you so much. I do believe we've run out of time. There's both joy and disappointment. The joy is that I think we've covered a fair amount today. One could go on and on, of course, but I think we've had a really fruitful discussion. That's one part of my joy. The other part of my joy certainly is that Chinwag evenings seem to be the way to go. Today has been rich in conversations, not just the ones recorded, but before and hopefully after. So there's loads to celebrate about. I want to thank people. Oh, before that, let me talk about my disappointments. That all of us are alive and well. I thought there would be, a few. We won't go there for now. But thank you guys.
Deal with the undertakers. Best. You're going to go pay there.
When you drop dead, drop in. Right? There was an advertising line.
Oh, that guy was cool.
That was classic. In tune with what we are talking about, except it's not very musical. But deep gratitude, firstly, to the four gentlemen who have joined us this evening.
Thank you.
Ambi, Rajeev, Les, Rahul, thank you, man. Really appreciate. And, Chinwag Evenings is about all of us as well. I really, really want to thank you guys for coming over, spending time. And I think the social aspect of meeting and chatting, going way beyond what we're recording, is going to make a difference. Now, here's the sales pitch. In the new year, we at the Chinwag Collective are going to be doing 2 podcasts, the conventional way, audio visual. And once a month, we're hoping to meet up like this. And hopefully all the 10% that I earn, if I do, will pay for the stuff that goes into it. But we're hoping more importantly and seriously to meet personally. We spoke about, being social animals. And we're hoping that this vibration will grow. I want to specifically thank all of you for taking the time out to be with us, to contribute, to soak it in, to help us have a few laughs and live life like we should with a smile on face and heart. I want to thank Alex and your team at Smoke House for being the perfect host. The bar's stacked up, right? As also Binge Pods, ID Brews for being our podcast partner, and all of the guys at Dishkyan for helping us capture all of this, and generally the team that's put it together. Okay, speech for the evening over. Just want to let you know that we appreciate you being here. And if you can, once this is out, be kind of advertising for us. We'd really appreciate that.
10%
I say that. Well said. Listen, what I earn, I promise you, will be spent. I think we're talking about developing a mutually beneficial society here. So you got a deal coming your way. Thanks again. And what do I say? Let's continue to socialize. Thank you very much.